becoming energized and then passing that energy to the next particle in life. But in our vacuum of space, where there is nothing in it, where our photon of light is traveling in waves, have you ever stopped to wonder what exactly it is we're waiting? This hints at a fundamental something that exists within nothing, a fabric that makes up all of reality itself. Quantum physicists call this something a quantum field. Quantum fields are tough to wrap your head around. They are inescapably important when it comes to understanding the fate of a black hole.
Namaste. Dreaming about reaching the top is one thing, and actually reaching the top is yet another thing. To reach on the top.
Dark actual scale before vanishing into time. But how can this be true? We've well known that events horizon is inescapable. So how could radiation ever leave it and eventually cause such a black hole explosion? The answer is a strange one and relies on intuitive ideas of quantum theory that completely go against our day-to-day experience. But it's true. I hope you're prepared for the universe to be more stranger than you first thought. But to begin understanding Hawking's theory, we need to understand the idea of quantum fields. Remember, light moves like a wave through an empty patch of space, which reveals that there must be something existing even in nothing, or else light wouldn't be able to wave it. Scientists call this fundamental fabric of reality a quantum field. In fact, they believe that there are several quantum fields, all overlapping on two sides of the same coin after all. All the universe you see around you is resonating quantum fields, and nothing more. In this way, the theory portrays all of the universe as a song being played on these fields, which I think is quite a beautiful image, if nothing else. But why does this matter? Why is it important to define the universe in this way? Well, due to an idea of quantum physics called Heisenberg's uncertainty principle, sometimes the strings of the universe start strumming themselves. Without going too deeply into this aspect of quantum physics, essentially, when we're looking at really tiny objects on the atomic scale, it becomes impossible to know too much about them. You cannot know both the location, time, in a patch of space where a black hole was born. You imagine the quantum field that resonated along this line, stretching from before the existence of the black hole into the future after it. Before the birth of a black hole, all is normal. Quantum fields are all resonating freely and cancel each other out. However, the emergence of the black hole's event horizon changed the curvature of space. Outside it, Hawking realized that certain pulses were now missing their opposite numbers. As he looked at the map, he realized not everything was being cancelled out anymore after the black hole had formed. Indeed, outside the event horizon, traveling away from the black hole, he found resonances that perfectly matched the shape of thermal radiation flying midway, which would probably mean we weren't around anymore to do the detecting. However, in spite of the objections to it, the math behind Hawking radiation seems to be sound, and scientists have recently taken steps to proving it in the lab. In the Technion Israel Institute of Technology, researchers looking into Hawking radiation came up with an idea to get around the difficulty of measuring a real-life black hole. They did this by creating an analog, a sonic black hole, which would mimic the properties of a real one. They relied on the fact that sound moves much slower than light, so it's much easier to create a medium that moves faster than sound. When it moves, any sound waves traveling in the same direction as it can never quite escape it. Interesting, if you fell into a black hole, could you ever escape? Probably not. However, if you waited until almost the end of the universe, the black hole may just radiate Hawking radiation until the mass and energy that made up your existence was completely removed from inside the event horizon. Does that count as escaping? That's probably not so appealing to you. Probably best just not to go in. And that's not the only weird thing about black holes. Their existence implies something quite worrying about our own reality. When you're walking on a beach and you make a footprint in the sand, there is no question in your mind that it is your foot that caused the footprint. The order of causality is quite clear here, so much so that it seems laughable to even find the universe in this way. Well,
Chef George Crumb, great name for a chef. Actually, it'd be better for a baker. Anyway, Chef Crumb got a lot of customer complaints that his fries weren't crispy enough. Crumb, a bit annoyed, decided to slice the potatoes as thin as he possibly could, deep fry them in boiling oil, and slather them in salt. That ought to show up, he probably thought. But to his surprise, people went crazy for the new recipe. Potato chips have changed a lot since 1853. Today, they come in over 200 different flavors, from the classic sour cream and onion to some pretty bizarre ones like wasabi ginger. Let's have
the location, time, in a patch of space.
Ice cream cones. Ice cream itself is nothing new. The Chinese ate something very similar to it as early as 200 BC. Ice cream cones, however, were the product of a happy accident at the 1904 World's Fair in St. Louis. The ice cream booth had been so rushed with customers that it ran out of bowls. Things weren't so busy in the next booth over, where Ernest Hanley was selling Persian waffles. In a kind gesture, Hanley started rolling his waffles up into cones and offered them to his neighbor to use instead of bowls. Customers fell in love with the final product, and that's how the ice cream cone was born. Coca-Cola. John Pemberton wasn't a businessman. He was just a pharmacist trying to find a way to get rid of headaches. So he came up with a simple recipe consisting of two ingredients, coca leaves and cola nuts, combined into a syrup. It went on the market in 1886. The syrup was supposed to be mixed with water, but the seller once mixed it with soda by accident. This is how the delicious and refreshing drink we all love today was created. Toasted nuts. Dr. Spencer Silver was working as a chemist for 3M Company back in 1968. He was trying to create a super strong adhesive, but what he got instead was quite the opposite. A low-tack, high-quality adhesive, only strong enough to hold up a piece of paper. He relocated the
The math behind Hawking radiation seems to be sound, and scientists have recently taken steps to proving it in the lab. In the Technion Israel Institute of Technology, researchers looking into Hawking radiation came up with an idea to get around the difficulty of measuring a real-life black hole. They did this by creating an analog, a sonic black hole, which would mimic the properties of a real one. They relied on the fact that sound moves much slower than light, so it's much easier to create a medium that moves faster than sound. When it moves, any sound waves traveling in the same direction as it can never quite escape it. Interesting, if you fell into a black hole, could you ever escape? Probably not. However, if you waited until almost the end of the universe, the black hole may just radiate Hawking radiation until the mass and energy that made up your existence was completely removed from inside the event horizon. Does that count as escaping? That's probably not so appealing to you. probably best just not to go in. And that's not the only weird thing about black holes. Their existence implies something quite worrying about our own reality. When you're walking on a beach and you make a footprint in the sand, there is no question in your mind that it is your foot that caused the footprint. The order of causality is quite clear here, so much so that it seems laughable to even recall.
John Pemberton was a businessman who used viruses trying to find a way to get rid of headaches. So he came up with a simple recipe. George Crumb, culinary for a chef. Actually, it'd be better for a baker. Anyway, Chef Crumb got a lot of customer complaints that his fries weren't crispy enough. Crumb, a bit annoyed, decided to slice the potatoes as thin as he possibly could, deep fry them in boiling oil, and slather them in salt. That ought to show him, he probably thought. But to his surprise, people went crazy for the new recipe. Potato chips have changed a lot since 1853. Today, they come in over 200 different flavors, from the classic sour cream and onion to some pretty bizarre ones like wasabi ginger. That sounds ice cream cones. Ice cream itself is nothing new. The Chinese ate something very similar to it as early as 200 BC. Ice cream cones, however, were the product of a happy accident at the 1904 World's Fair in St. Louis. The ice cream booth had been so rushed with customers that it ran out of bowls. Things weren't so busy in the next booth over, where Ernest Hamway was selling Persian waffles. In a kind gesture, Hamway started